Started here. We'll do the best we can with our audio. We were having a little problem with it. My name is Jim Stinger. I am the president of the San Francisco chapter of the Society of West Coast Artists. We are a membership-based organization, so if you're not a member, please consider joining. We can always use more members. And one of the benefits of being a member is you get to display your artwork in our beautiful gallery in downtown San Bruno. So consider becoming a member, please. Today, our May demo artist is Teresa Ruzzo. She's a pastel artist, and I would like to introduce her. Teresa Ruzzo is a California artist who paints what she loves, the landscape, both on location and in the studio. A native of the San Francisco Bay Area, her desire to paint was kindled during an 8-year stay in the high desert of northwestern New Mexico. Returning to the Bay Area in the early 90s, she enrolled in a drawing class offered by a local art school, was turned loose with a box of pastels, and has never looked back. Teresa's landscapes are in private collections in the United States and Europe. Artists who influence her work include Marian Wachtel, George Innes, Richard Mayhew, Georgia O'Keeffe, and Richard McKinley. It is our pleasure to have Teresa here today to demo a pastel landscape. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Teresa.
Well, I'm so glad you're all here, one way or the other. It's kind of odd to be and to not see everyone, but thank you for joining. And I'm very excited to be here. I love pastel. I have been doing it probably 20 years or so. And I love the landscape as well. That's basically what I do. So I'm going to, I don't know how much you can see, if you can see the box. I think you can because someone had a question on that. And I've already kind of taken liberties and started a little bit. So I'll talk a little bit about materials, but not too much right at this moment because I want to get in my underpainting, which I always do. So I work on something called U-Art paper. That's U capital A-R-T, I believe. And it's sanded paper made especially for pastel. It's archival. I understand that it's very, I know I've been teaching, and I understand it's very hard to find it locally. And I'll mention these folks, they're great. It's called, they're called Dakota Pastels. And it's just Dakota, D-A-K-A-T-O, anyway, whatever, however you spell Dakota, and pastels.com. They have, I've not been to their place, but they have a place up in, I think it's Washington, and it's all pastels. I mean, it's just like Greenland for those of us who are pastels. And you can buy any kind of paper, U-Art and lots of other different kinds of papers. They have nearly every pastel known to man. And anyway, and they're just a good resource if you want to know a little bit about pastels and how they compare, because I'll be talking about hard pastels and there's soft pastels, and they have a chart that shows what's what and the quality of each pastel, because they're all a little bit different, and they have all the different kinds of papers. You can also get the paper at Licks, and again, order. I don't know anyone who carries it around here, unfortunately. Anyway, that's what I use, and I'm using a grit. I think this is grit 500, which is a bit fine. I also use grit 400, which is a little bit, it's a little grittier, and the grit enables you, if you've not done pastel before, the grit is important for us pastelists because it determines how many layers you can put on. So you want enough grit, but not too much. If it's too much, then I feel that it's distracting somehow with the texture. So, and if it's too little, then what happens is you fill up the tooth, as we call it, and you end up getting to a point where you can't put more pastel on it. It just slicks over because it's the paper is accepted as much as it can. So one way to kind of get around the whole grit issue or to work with it is to do an underpainting, is what I call it. And it's getting the darks in. To get the darks in first, And it doesn't fill up the paper so much. It also is like a roadmap for me, so I kind of know where I'm going. Pastel is very forgiving, though. You can change things if you want, sometimes, sometimes not. Certainly more forgiving than watercolor, I think. So, I'm going to do this. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use. If I hold this up, you can see it probably. Isopropyl alcohol, 70%. I like this because it's it's not a hazardous material, which is nice. Some people use a terpenoid. There's lots of things you can do. The paper will accept water, any of this kind of stuff, or this or whatever. I also use watercolor, and I may show you that too. First, I need some pastel. So I'm using this. It's a Terry Ludwig pastel, kind of a purpley color. So I'm going to use that. Now, one thing about this is a soft pastel, and soft pastel means there's not much binder at all. These are more expensive than, say, the hard pastels, which are something like these. These are hard sticks. They don't break as easily. They're still pretty, but they have more binder and less pigment, and they're much less expensive. And there's a place for both of these, but the darks, anyway, I love this color. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can know, if you can see my picture there, or you probably can't see it from there. No.
The camera is actually over there too, so you could show both. Yeah.
Okay. So roughly the picture I'm doing. So I'm going to block in the trees. And I probably should start out with gloves at least. And why I'm picking this color is I think that green looks good over the top of it. So that's one reason. There's lots of people do all kinds. Pastel is so versatile, and people do all kinds of interesting things with underpaintings, and it's really fun. And while this dries, I might show you another couple of things that I do sometimes. I'm trying not to put this on too thick, because as you'll see when I use the alcohol, it's going to melt it in, and I don't want it too thick or too dark. So it's just, again, it's kind of my little roadmap, which I may change because that's what I do. But there's something really fun about the texture, the feel of the pastels as the texture, the sanded paper grabs it. And that's for me, that's the fun part about using sanded paper. You can use lots of other papers. There's a Canson paper that I started using early on, which is also very good, and lots of people use that. And so, but I like that feel of the feel of the way the sanded paper grabs the pastel. So this is, again, just the isopropyl. I think that's what it's called. Is that the same as rubbing alcohol? I don't know. Yes. Yes, it is. I have a good authority. Okay. So that's what I'm using. Just to smush it around a bit. And I'm using just kind of a stiff bristled brush. Want something sort of stiff, because the sanded paper will wear it down. Oh, and it's dripping all over. That's always fun. I've done it on a little bit. And I've got a little more alcohol that I want. I should look at my thing. Oh, I didn't talk about my notan. I've got a little black and white study here that I'm working from, sort of roughly. It's all very rough. I also have a little color thingy I did. You have to admit it's a pretty cool color. And then that's where I wanted to have an emphasis then on distance, so that I remember to put things in We want to make sure that that's some good distance going on there. Or atmosphere. Oh, that's too dark. Oh. I think. Got a little carried away with that. So. I want it to be a little bit darker here and then get lighter as it goes back, which also kind of enhances the distance thing. Gives it perspective or a sense of space. And this doesn't really matter how it goes because I'm going to come over it. That's now. I like the drips. Okay, so a couple of things. I usually start out, not always, but usually. If I don't, I wish I had. I start out doing some kind of what I call a notan, and that's just means, I think it means value or a couple values. I can't remember exactly what that word means, but it's basically just a value study. So if I'm out in the field, which I am a lot, these are really important. Standing out there looking at the landscape, and there's so much going on. It helps to hone it down. Oh, which reminds me of something. Just a moment. And if you are an outdoor painter, I have this wonderful thing. I don't know what I would do without it. The little viewfinder. You can give whatever shape you want, and it really helps to zero in on exactly what I want to do. So this is the one for today, although I didn't like it. But I thought, I'll do another one. And then when I did the other one, I actually liked the other one first. But anyway, it's fun to do that and try different compositions. And I don't, you probably can't see it. This is from the same photo, doing a little square composition. I don't know how you see that with the glass. But that is one of the, I guess you would say, drawbacks of pastel. If you want to frame them, they need to be framed under glass. So here's another longer version. So while this dries, might take a few minutes. It's drying pretty good. When oftentimes I use a watercolor. I use watercolor. Why I didn't use it today because of that, because I want watercolor takes a while to dry. And I thought while I was waiting for the other to dry, I could show you briefly what I do with the watercolor. So I use Payne's gray. This is just because I saw somebody else use Payne's gray and I rather liked it. And I'm using that's not going to work. I'm using the wrong brush. So if I were doing the same scene, I'll just got some glare there. Shadow. Here, I'll do it this way. I could just do the same thing. Why I like this, especially on location, unless we're at the coast and then there's too much water in the air, so it takes too long to dry. But someplace more arid, I like this because I always have water with me. It's very portable. I like playing with watercolor. I'm not good at it, but it's kind of fun to play with it. And so I would do something like this as the underpainting. And then I also use a Van Dyke brown, which somehow I think kind of goes nicely with it. Well, it might turn out muddy. I was doing something like that. I mean, this is just kind of very well, but anyway. Again, just to have kind of a. There's one other thing I'll show you because I've been experimenting with it lately. Kind of fun. And that's to put down a complementary color. So, and I experimented with these, but this is the same thing I'm doing right now, the same image with all these greens. But it didn't turn out great, but I thought I would show you anyway, because it's, I think it's a fun thing to do. And sometimes for me it works and sometimes it doesn't. So, and that's to do, which red? To do red underneath. Might need a darker red. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do this red. I don't have this perfected at all. Not that I have any of this perfected, but that's how with learning what. So I might do something like that, and then under the grass, this is where I'm never quite sure, but I could always do a lighter red. Or how about this? This might be pretty. So these are just some of the things you can do. And then again, I would go back. I can do that in water, or I'll just go back and do it with this little bit of toned. And then when that dries, I'll put some green over it just so you can see how that works. But now I'm probably about ready for this guy. So, I like the watercolor the best, actually. It's my favorite. So it does take a while to dry. We'd still be waiting for it. Okey dokes. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I think there are some pastel papers that don't take the watercolor.
Oh, there are. Sennelier makes a really lovely paper. It's called La Carte. And it comes in lots of different colors, but you can't use water or anything like that. Wet cap footprint lifts the color and the tube right off.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful paper, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Helen, because a lot of people don't do underpaintings. They just work on colored paper. And I've tried, but I'm just, you just get into, this is how it works for me. So
Does Richard McKinley use the watercolor?
well, when I saw him last, and that's been a lot of years ago, I took him, he was my first landscape workshop instructor. So at that point, he was doing watercolor underneath, and he might even just paint a whole, have all the colors right, not do something contrasting. He also would do oil underneath and paint on top of that. He was doing all kinds of things, but he always used, but that was a long time. I think he always used this kind of paper, which was known as, it was something else before this. Ursta. You remember Ursta? I know we all loved Ursta, but I don't think it was archival. Anyway, they stopped making it, and then UART, and then Kitty Wallace, but then never mind, that's pastel history. But here we are with UART, and even though it's hard to find, it's worth it. I think it's really good stuff. Okay, so now I'm going. Any other questions? Oops. Okay. Oh, and I don't know if the camera can see this little tiny thing here. I don't know, untape it. I don't usually do this. It might be good if I did, but I did this little guy, and this has the alcohol wash underneath, and I just did it to determine the kind of what colors I wanted to use. So I kind of turned out really easy. I love it. So we'll see what happens with the larger one. Oh, well, we could talk about fixative too. People always ask that. This is the fixative I use. It's by Sennelier, Latour. So, and I think it's fairly easy to find. It's made especially for pastels. It doesn't, that I can see, it does not miscolor them. You still have to, if you want to frame them, they still have to be under glass. So, and it's workable too, in that if I get too much pastel on and I want to, get the tooth back or, have some more texture, I will brush the pastel off, and I can use this fixative to spray it, and it gives, it gets the texture back. Somehow, I'm not exactly sure how. So and there are other brands too. Dakota Pastel has a lot of other brands that are made for pastel that people seem to like. But these are just the things I use. Okay, so I'm going to start working somewhere. How should I start? I usually start working on dark to light. I really got this quite dark, so this will be interesting to see how it goes. So I'm using a kind of a cool green. And I just, none of my, well, some of them have their papers on them, but most of them have no papers on them, the pastel that is, and I break them into bits and pieces. Sometimes they break themselves into bits and pieces. And I try to use them on their sides. So in the beginning, I'm just trying to, find my way around, keeping in mind, hopefully, I would tend to forget where the sun's coming from, this direction, if it's going to be darker over here. And I know I said that I wanted to do it and have an emphasis on distance. So I need to think about that as I'm doing. So this one is more of a grayed out. Where's my little thing from cheat sheet? A grayed out kind of green, because these little shrubs or trees are way back there. So what I'm trying to do now is to use a really, really light touch. Again, I'm working on a sanded paper. If I put it on really thick, no paper shows through, and the color's not going to show through, and it's going to clog up the tooth really quickly. So pastel is a forgiving medium, and I think it's pretty easy, relatively speaking, compared to something like watercolor, which I think is very difficult. But it has its little quirks, and and that's one of them. One of them is at least for me, I find putting it on in just a light touch works a lot better. You can layer more. It gives me the effect on a good day that I want. So I'm adding some blue to this too, because I want these guys to go back. I want them to sit back there with some kind of, I try not to blend things too much with my finger, because again, that's going to cover up the tooth. That's going to take away all this little, little blumpy stuff. And that's probably not a word, but all the texture. And then there's a little bit of mountain coming through here. And oh shoot. Okay, I just lost my picture, but not too bad. I have to take off my gloves. All right, I may change the color of these right now. Yeah, that's kind of going up there, but that's okay. Okay. I'm trying to put these up where I know where I'll find them. Oh, okay. Anyway, I want to lighten this up because it does. This is the color I think looks really pretty over the underpainting. But we have a master color sitting here today, Helen Shield. It also helps to wipe off your pastels after you've used them. They don't always do that, but otherwise they end up turning into mud and you can't tell which color is which. I usually try to have a paper here to check colors out on. Again, I'm kind of putting these they're actually in the photo, there are little trees hanging out here. So, I'll put a little tree. Of course, as artists, we always get to do whatever we want to do because we are the artists. Well, not dark, but not too dark. I think I mentioned already, I try to work from dark to light. So the other thing I want to do with this is try to put some little, show you how to do little, just like little poppies, the fun part. A friend of mine, fellow artist, calls it eye candy. These are all mainly soft pastels that I'm using. You know, my favorites.
You have a little tray of the colors that are in use right now, or do you put them back? I have to sort of keep them out.
I was going to put them back and I thought, well, that could take us all day. So I put them up here. I do have a tray, but not with me. Yeah, not with me. So I'm using, but that's what I do when I'm working in the studio. I have a tray and I end up with a pile of them.
Do you have cornmeal or
No,
rice or anything in there?
no, but that would keep them clean, wouldn't it? Do you do that?
Sometimes, yeah,
Yeah.
cornmeal works better than rice. Rice is kind of hard.
No, I've never done that. I usually just have these, they're like takeout trays or whatever I have in little like this.
Right.
Put a piece of paper towel in there, and then I just, as I pick out new ones, you know.
That's a huge tray. My box and go out with this little small one.
This one doesn't go out with me much anymore, which is why it looks so beautiful.
Yeah.
I have a smaller one because it's just too heavy. I mean, it's very heavy, and
I had mine go over once.
yes,
Beach.
that's not fun. That's totally not.
I was in the sand.
That is
Creeping.
yes, that we've all. I think a lot of pastels have had that happen. I had that happen with this box. I had that happen with my smaller one. Yeah, the wind came up. I attached when I'm out painting, I attach an umbrella to the box. And the wind came up. I was actually painting with the Monterey Bay Painters Association for the first time, you know, and you'd like to make a good impression, you know, even if you paint lousy, you want to, you know, or however. So I'm painting away and I have my small box and I have this, my umbrella. Then I go visit somebody else and I turn around to see my umbrella. The wind came in, lifted it up, leaned it against some barbed wire, and all the pastel, you know, went flying out into the poison oak. Was quite exciting. And they were so nice, though. I know they all said, "Oh, we'll help you," but I thought, oh, you know, I don't want everybody in there. That, you know, I followed that. So anyway, put the gloves on, got in there, and just, you know, and I'd done that before. That's the embarrassing thing. You would think after a while you would, but never mind. So yes, I know.
I took the picture with me and I even hung it
That would
the
be
bottom to
Yeah.
give it some weight, but that day on Carmel Beach, it was just too,
too windy.
yeah.
So my usual rule, but I don't always do this, is if I walk away, but I didn't that day, if I walk away, I fold it over. I put it has a little,
That's a good thing.
it has a little thingy. So here,
Good tip for outdoor.
for outdoor, there are hazards of outdoor painting.
Right.
But the fun outweighs it. Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
So I put that on and put it back down, but you know, you get out there and you're excited and you know, I don't know. And there's so much going on. There are birds and animals and clouds and bugs and
People.
snakes and people. Yeah, people come by and they want to take a picture and whatever. It's very fun. I mean, but it's also very complex. Yeah. Well, but it's good. It's good. It's good. All right, let's see what I'm doing. Pardon? Oh, somebody out front. Okay, so I probably should do a little guide in here too. And I don't use this box so much. Don't see that it has my favorite sky colors. We'll just have to make it. Oh, that's kind of pretty. You know, it's interesting. I've started teaching now, and it's really, really interesting to do that. It's really, I'm having fun. It's super fun. But it makes me remember things that my teacher taught, you know, teachers along the way taught me. And I studied for a lot of years with Halcyon Teague from the Pacific Art League, and she was just great. She was classically trained, you know, really, really good. I like to remind us that, you know, before you paint in color, you know, you need to do, you know, years of painting black and white, but thank God she didn't make us do that. But she did, I always knew I wanted to do landscapes. And she said, you know, I've only taken a drawing class at this point, you know, and she said, no, you're not going to know anything about landscape painting outdoors until you do a lot of still life. So that's what I did. And I was going somewhere with this story, but now I don't remember. Oh yeah, the things that she used to say. I think that was it. Yeah, she was great. She did not, yeah, we worked on cans on paper and, yeah, I still have all my, you know, my still life. And, what else? She was not at all a proponent of blending. So she, and she wasn't wild about sand and paper either. But I learned a ton from her. So it's always kind of funny to think about that when I'm teaching somebody else, thinking about things that she said and finding myself saying some of the same things. Okay, those trees were too dark there. I don't like. So you see, I don't know if you can see this, but I can cut back in with the pastel into the dark a little bit. As for those of you sitting in the room, I mean, I'm kind of a, can you see around me? Okay.
Oh, that's screen.
Oh, that's right, you have a screen. This is a modern demo. An old woman with a modern demo. This could be scary. Okay, what's going on over here. So I just kind of like to work all over the place. I love this color up there. I wonder what that was. Oh yeah, I was going to say, I've just signed up for some for a class on color. And in fact, the instructor has us do color studies before we actually do any painting. And I don't know, it's like, I'm not sure if I'm into this or not. I mean, I haven't really started the class yet, actually. But the idea, I think, is that you plan out your color palette and then you work on your painting. I tend to be a little more, I don't know, intuitive, or one might say unorganized, disorganized. I kind of like to see what, just start working on things. But I think that it might be a useful thing to have it mapped out beforehand, just like I do or try to do with my little notepad. So I kind of know what's going on, where things are. This is a lot of green. As I was driving up here, I'm happy. I mean, I love the green, I love the rain, but it's also nice. I'm a Californian and I like to see the hills cold and they're very attractive. Not the color I used over there. This is quite a long blob of trees. It helps to look at one's ten now and then, just for good measure.
Now, when you run out of a green, let's say, that you like and use a lot, do you reorder just that color?
You know,
I'm not very good about, maintaining the number of the pastel and watering. I just go on to something else.
you're asking very good questions. I know I did. No, I have no idea what color they are anymore. I fill out color charts, if you buy whoever, sommelier or whoever, and you mark them down, and then at the end of the day, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, I run out of. So sometimes I'll.
Well, you're making me feel.
But if you've ever studied with Albert Handel, he supposedly, but then he has color. He supposedly cuts his pastels in half, saves or cuts an end off with the wrapper, and then he knows exactly,
Yeah. Okay.
But he also has, a lovely woman who, puts his pastels away after he's done a demo. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame than some of us, like we're on our own. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm like you. It's like, well, fine, I'll just find another color. And they do change, that some Yeah, some colors they discontinue, some brands of pastels they discontinue. So why not just buy a new
So if
set?
you don't want to buy a new box, what I found is just, if you go to University Art or Dakota Art Pastels or whatever, buy 3 of them in, you know, kind of close.
Close value.
So that, you know, there can be that little
Right,
subtle shift,
yeah,
so to speak.
that's a good.
If you're not quite sure, you think you have exactly the right green that you want, or buy 3 of them, like 1, 2.
That probably works. Terry Ledwig has these big boxes of greens that are beautiful, but it's huge boxes. But Lens, I don't know if any of you up here are familiar with Lens, and it's an art store in Santa Cruz. And they have lots of pastels. I don't know if anybody remembers Accent Art when it was in Palo
yes.
Alto. Okay, and Gil had he had quite a good selection of pastels.
Yeah.
Well, when he finally went out of business, his Lens bought all of his inventory. So they have a good supply of pastels if you want, because it's hard to match, you know. It's hard to match online. So I mark them, I go, but I can never find the exact one. And yeah, you're right. I just, oh, well, that keeps us on our toes, right? So.
Well, I think it's also good for you to kind of force yourself to maybe use a different color under the green
Yeah,
to change, you know.
this is a lot of green. This painting has a lot of green in it. Way more green. Than it needs to. But somehow I was in the green this year. All right, I think I need to stand back just to see what I want to do next.
You also can take right.
It needs a little help. Yeah, and I don't know when is a good time for a break.
Just about any time you want to take a break would be fine.
Okay. All right, I'll just kind of. I want this foolish color. All right, I think I'm just gonna get this one without, it's too heavy. And then we'll regroup and come back and see if I can make this look okay. It's interesting how different it looks in a larger venue, a larger size than it does when it's a bit smaller. You can get away with all kinds of things. Oh, I never finished the sky. I'm looking for a blue that's not too dark, not too light, and kind of dusty-ish to push these little guys back. Too bright. I'm gonna come back in with the eggplant. A little bit. To punch up the dark again, and come back. Can do dark over light, not too light, so that'll work. I like the way they look together. Okay, I'm ready to take a break. Okay, see you in a moment.
So 10-minute break?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Yeah, forget it. It's very odd to be talking to a camera.
It was a great trip.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we are back.
Hi. You're back. Okay. I need to pull this together. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It's always surprising. It's always surprising. So I liked when this is the important thing too. I always paint standing up. And now you don't have to. My students paint sitting down and they're perfectly happy. And then I have to like nuke them out of their chairs so they can walk around, look, get some distance, and then come back and work again. So because I was thinking all this little light stuff was bothering me, the paper showing through. But then when I get back, I think I kind of like that. It lightens it up because I have a bit of a dark color there. So, but I didn't like these guys, the trees. So we can do the unpainting. So I'm going to brush some of this off. I'm just not liking that. So that actually is kind of a way of blending it, not that I really want to blend it. And I don't like the color of the sky either. Other than that. And there's some other things I'm not too wild about. But this was supposed to be about the distance and atmosphere. I think I can do better with those trees. But I don't know. So let me see what I can sort out. That's too light. That's too light.
Do you tend to take your gloves off and leave them off, or is that just accidental?
I take them off. This always happens. I start out with them and then they get in the way and I take them off.
Oh.
So that's just how it goes. Because especially when I'm at this, I noticed that I was starting to inadvertently blend them because the gloves kind of get in the way and I was, yeah, they just bother me. But I figure, well, if I have them on part of the time, that helps a little bit.
You never use the things.
I have, those are good. Yeah, which
I
ones?
use the invisible glove.
I have.
Because it's just a protect your hands without it getting a bled.
That's a good idea. I had some and I've just gotten out of the habit.
Hardware store.
Really? And
Because, you know, they use chemicals, a lot of the construction workers use chemicals, they use the invisible glove works really well, and it's very inexpensive.
Thank you.
You know.
I need to get some of that since I don't, yeah.
I use it when I do my oils or the charcoal or any of the stuff that you're getting hands all over it.
Yeah, otherwise you have. Pastel.
Well, it's just not, you don't know what your skin's absorbing and this keeps it from absorbing.
No, that is true.
It's just, I think, glycerin based, so it's.
So that's good. I appreciate that because I have used that stuff and then I ran out and then I just, never bothered to get with it. So I appreciate that. I like to come to demos and I learn things. This is good.
We all learn from each other, right,
I know, and that's what's great.
constantly.
That's what great. I have a studio in pardon. Art bias, yes. Art bias, where there's what, 50 other artists?
Yes, something like that.
So talk about learning, it's just so fun, I did it because I needed, to get away from the house and have a quiet place and all that. And I've gotten way more than I thought I would, I have a whole, whole group of folks and we all speak the same language and people, yet everyone's doing something incredibly different. And it's very inspiring. Very fun.
If you have questions, there's always someone you can ask.
Right.
Yeah.
I always need somebody to kind of have a look at my, I can't see it clearly at all, and I think, there's an artist right across from me and I nail him and ask him to tell me if he sees anything glaring and he comes up with stuff that I didn't even see. And as soon as he says it, I go, oh, right, I can see that. We just kind of we get into it. And I'm still not happy with these trees. Speaking of such. Okay, you know what? Trying to think what I want to do with it. Probably just leave them be. She says that she keeps working on them. Right. There's gotta be something better here. Oh, yeah, okay. I found something right. Where's my brush? Oh, I didn't mention, in case anyone wants to know, did I? I don't think I did, about the No-Tan. My little mark, this little thing I did here. I use these pens. There are 3 values of warm gray, and they're called Lyra, Lyra. And there's also a brand called Tombow, which I used to use. But I like these even better. Tombow, the caps always fell off, and they dry out. These are great. I'm doing the little No-Tan thing. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get these resurrect these little trees. Oh yeah. Takes a little persistence. And I want these to go back. Not stand out too much. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is do a warm and a cool of about the same value. So I can kind of look at them and squint. This is a little too light. That might work. That might work. That's about the same. Okay, so I've got this coming up. Okay. Oh, all right. Looking better. Just working all over the place. And I'm changing things from the original because I also think this is kind of distracting a bit there, but and then I have to remind myself that I actually don't do perfect art, and that shouldn't be the goal anyway, and because it's not going to happen. Because sometimes it's just things happen as they happen. Okay, I like that a little bit better. Okay, so what I want to do is spend a little bit of time doing the flowers, because I find those like super attractive. And fun. I didn't see a single poppy they're driving up. I guess it's stuck. They're done. 280. Anyone seen poppies lately? They're in the neighborhood, but I didn't see them on 280, so they must be done. I'm sure they were there. Okay, so now I'm using a harder pastel. They're thicker. These are called new pastels, and they have edges. What do you want to call it? They're rectangular. So you can kind of use them on the edge to make. Pretend I'm doing a little grassy bit, you know. I don't want to do too much, detail. That could be an issue.
So is that why you're using them, is to get detail?
Yeah, thank you, Beck, for explaining it. Right, I'm just kind of, for a little bit. I mean, yeah, a few little marks. Yeah, do you use them? You do pastel, but
I haven't been doing pastels, so
not like,
that's why I'm taking Clark's workshop.
yes, all take part. Fabulous instructor, very kind and very knowledgeable.
I mean, I've played with them, but I'm not happy with the results because I haven't had enough practice with them to know how, I mean, theoretically understand the layering, but in practice. What I really want to do is find somebody for portraiture.
Like Bob Gerber.
I do portraiture in other mediums, but I haven't been happy with the results in the past. So
I remember you were in the Bob Gerber portrait class at Asilomar, weren't you? Oh,
I've taken a
interesting.
lot of portraiture from Noah Buchanan, but that's an oil and charcoal. So
Huh.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm getting you confused with someone else. It was memorable. I don't really do portraits, but I decided to take this portrait class with Bob Gerber, who was an amazing pastelist. And I was studying with him in the city because I thought it would be good to learn portraiture. And I enjoyed it everything. But we went to Asilomar for a week. He set up, we had models. So we had we were in a room with the curtains drawn. We're at Asilomar. I'm a landscape painter. Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. Anyway, it's pretty funny. But after I had a meltdown, then I was okay. But it's like, oh no. Next time I go to Asilomar, I go outdoors. Yeah, he was great though. Oh my gosh, I learned a lot from him.
I think we're all just drawn to certain things more.
Yeah.
They dabble in other things, but I do like portraiture.
Yeah, exactly. And I enjoy dabbling in portraiture, but it's just not, no, it's just not what I want to do. I've always liked the landscape. Okay, I have to get serious here. As if I wasn't being serious earlier. But it's always fun to keep learning, and trying different things. And,
That's why I tried playing
and you found out that wasn't for you.
it. No,
Good information. Good information to have.
but you still, even with something you're not going to continue with, you've picked up techniques that you can apply to other things you're doing. And it's like with portraiture or life drawing, you really need to work from live models, but then you can apply what you know to photographs that you are then doing.
Exactly. That is such a good point. I do use photographs and I get it. But yeah, nothing's better, I think, than working from line.
Yeah. I've been enjoying doing drawings from really old photographs, so you wouldn't be able to do those people. My mom was a child, so wouldn't be able to do that. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, photos definitely have their place and they, yeah, and if I'm stuck inside or want to be inside and they offer so much versatility. I mean, you can take, I just take one and I can go all over the place with it. You know, you can do all kinds of things. And I try not to let it dictate exactly what I'm gonna do. Like this one, I'm leaving out all, I think those are, yeah, the vineyards there. Okay, so I'm still playing with it. I have to look back again.
Teresa, do you ever use pastel pencils for details?
No. I have two sets of pastel pencils and I only use them for signing my name. No, I never have, but one of my students is really good with pastel pencils and she uses them for detail. But I just, no, I don't. Unless maybe I had a bar or I don't often have buildings, but I do sometimes do barns and different things. And if I need to make a straight line, I might use them, but I actually prefer to use the new pastels because you know, there's something about, you know, you can just make a nice straight hard edge without. And maybe it's just that I'm used to working with this kind of stuff than a pencil.
Yeah.
A pencil I'm wanting to draw, and just the thought of wanting to draw and make a straight line makes me nervous and I wiggle. Whereas this, you just go, well, okay, this is, we're gonna have this and have this. I can do that, but.
Yeah, Jan Crystal, it will use pastel pencils when she's almost done. She goes in and it's, I thought, oh, I never thought of doing that. That's a good idea.
That is
It's
good.
been hard and
Yeah. That makes me think of Elizabeth Mowry. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
Also someone who's passed on. But she used to use them, yeah, kind of do little scribbly things, and she used them a little bit as a blending thing. All right, I'll have to remember that when I get back to the studio and put them to good use besides just signing my name. Yeah, that's good to know. Okay, so I'm having a little, I don't really like this. I keep getting places that go, oh. Okay, okay, so enough walking around. So I'm gonna put in these little flowers. This always makes me nervous. I know it's the painting should make me nervous, but it does. It does. They don't usually do. I mean, look at these colors, so cool. So now I'm pressing really hard. I'm doing just the opposite of what I said. You know, I'm pressing hard. I'm trying to do these little random kind of flowers here and there without making them look. I find it really hard to do random because I generally just gravitate towards trying to make everything look even and symmetrical, whether I'm, you know, I'm not consciously trying to do that. That just seems to be what happens. So it's kind of hard to do just random. And I was looking at this wonderful, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, I'm trying to put some in the way back. This wonderful painting of Monet's that had these poppies, you know, and he had them back here, kind of just hints of poppies in the back. I like that. Man, that might be a little too dark. Hard to tell. You can have a zillion pastels and it's never enough. I can tell you that. I think that's too dark. But I don't want it too bright. So I'm trying to get them in, you know, kind of just a hint of, there's some people that do this so well, but anyway, just a hint of, you know, there's poppies back there, yeah. But without, you know, overdoing it. It's so hard to overdo it. I'm hard, easy to overdo it. So those are just kind of back there. Okay, don't worry about that. We're not worried about that. Okay. My photo only has a few poppies, but. And they're sometimes, there's a darker red, and I mean, these maybe aren't just all California poppies, no, maybe they are, I don't know. I like the way they're kind of coming out of this dark area over here. This is actually quite fun to do, and I'm just smudging them, I mean, I don't know what you call this. Some that are just kind of coming down. And I like you kind of have these little guys. Mhm. Mhm. This is really quite fun, actually. You've probably heard the old adage that it takes two people to finish a painting, one to do it and one to tell the other person when to stop. Oh, we can't even see them all that well.
You can on the screen.
Yeah, well. That means I need to put more on. More puppies.
You're using your soft pastel prints.
Yes. Yeah, yes, yes. Yeah, and what's fun is that, you can I just use whatever I have, like the broken bits, those kind of go on nicely. Yeah, because I'm pressing hard. You are a master at it. Helen Shield here does fabulous pastel, floral arrangements. You would do all that, and that, you would put them on pretty thick, wouldn't you? Oh, that one all fell down. In fact, I bet they work better when they're broken, because then they've got some sharp edges on them. I need some more of the California ones that are lighter colored, I think. And I'm trying to, I'm kind of imagining if there's those little ones that are on, just the little, how they are when. And they're not really quite very that. Bugs, that is, bugs, it probably don't make any sense. Sometimes. Okay, I think this orange looks a little better. I'm on a little bit of a swamp over here. Oh, rather experimental. So I'm kind of using this as trying to lead the eye, you're gonna come in and shoot, that kind of thing, so. I try to think about those things, when I'm painting. Or pasteling. Right, I think we're about done. Any questions?
Totally.
Oh. The tall grass. Okay, I think I'm done. Just have any questions, anything? Of course, then there's always, you're never done, right? Right, well, you found it helpful.
I do have a question, Teresa. When you go plein air painting out on the field, do you bring less supplies for the
Oh, yeah.
convenience?
I have a box that's about a third this size, or maybe half,
Okay.
yeah, meant half, yeah.
Okay.
All the back, and then I have a backpack that has, all, yeah, my stuff. And I have the tripod and an umbrella, and that's pretty much it. So I'm pretty mobile, because you don't usually find some places right by the car. Always, down the path. Yeah, that works. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Teresa.
Great.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. That ends the demo.
You have to take a picture.